You withdraw $40,000 from your 401k to support your retirement, and somehow it shows up as over $70,000 of taxable income on your tax return. That sounds impossible, but it happens when retirement income is claimed in the wrong order. If you have a 401k, Social Security, and a pension, this issue is especially common and completely invisible until after the fact. The problem isn't how much income you have, it's which income you turn on first, and how the IRS rules create traps once multiple income sources overlap. In this video, I'll show you why this happens, why the advice most people follow actually makes it worse, and how to think about income sequencing so you keep more of what you've already earned. So let's get into it. The easiest way to understand what's happening here is to think of these rules as tax traps. There are specific thresholds in the tax code that don't cause any problem until you cross them. And once you do, the consequences show up in the amount of taxes you owe on your income. Here is why this matters so much if you have all three income sources: a 401k, Social Security, and a pension. Each one has its own set of rules. Before we go any further, let's take a step back and look at each of these income sources individually, how they work, how they're taxed, and why they behave so differently from one another. Once you reach age 59 and a half, you can withdraw money from your 401k or IRA without penalties. Later in retirement, required minimum distributions begin, currently at age 73 or 75. And at that point, the IRS forces income onto your tax return whether you need it or not. Withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income. That means every dollar you take out increases your adjusted gross income and can affect how much of your Social Security is taxed and whether your Medicare premiums go up or not. Before RMDs begin, you have significant flexibility to decide when and how much to withdraw. After RMDs start, that control shrinks, which is why how you use your 401k in the earlier years matters so much. You can claim Social Security as early as age 62, but doing so permanently reduces your benefit. If you wait until full retirement age, around 66 or 67, depending on your birth year, you receive your full retirement benefit. Delaying all the way to age 70 increases your benefit even more. From full retirement age to age 70, your benefit increases by about 8% per year, creating a larger inflation-adjusted income stream for life. Once you claim, that decision is largely locked in. Depending on what else shows up on your tax return, anywhere from 0 to 85% of your Social Security can become taxable. It's not the benefit itself that causes the tax, it's how your Social Security interacts with your other income sources. A pension gives you a reliable paycheck in retirement, which can reduce uncertainty and stress. But it also means less flexibility once it starts. Most pensions are taxed as ordinary income and stacked directly on top of your 401k withdrawals and Social Security when determining your tax bracket. Some pensions begin automatically at retirement or at a certain age, which can force income into your plan even if you don't need it yet, increasing the importance of coordinating everything else around it. So now that you understand the rules, let's take a look at the tax rules related to these three income taxes. We'll start with the one that catches most people off guard: how Social Security is taxed. Whether your Social Security is taxed has nothing to do with how much Social Security you receive. It depends on something the IRS calls combined income. Here is the formula, and simpler than it sounds. Your combined income is your adjusted gross income plus any tax-exempt interest plus half of your Social Security benefits. Now, here are thresholds for a married couple filing jointly. Below $32,000, Social Security is not taxed. Between $32,000 and $44,000, up to 50% can be taxed. Above $44,000, up to 85% of Social Security benefit can be taxed. And here is the part most people don't realize. These thresholds were set back in 1983. They were never indexed for inflation, so more and more retirees fall into them every year. Now let's put some numbers to this. Say you're a married couple receiving $42,000 a year in Social Security. Half of that is $21,000. You also have a modest pension of $18,000 a year. Before touching your IRA, your combined income looks like this: $21,000 from Social Security, $18,000 from the pension. That puts you at $39,000, just under the $44,000 threshold. So far, so good. Now you decide to withdraw $40,000 from your IRA to cover your spending for the year. Here is what happens. That $40,000 gets gets added to your adjusted gross income. Your combined income now jumps from $39,000 to $79,000. And once you cross that $44,000 line, the rules change. Up to 85% of your Social Security is now pulled onto your tax return. That's roughly $36,000 of Social Security that just became taxable, even though your Social Security check didn't change at all. So now look at what actually being taxed. $40,000 IRA withdrawal plus about $36,000 of Social Security. That's roughly $76,000 of taxable income created by a single $40,000 withdrawal. That's the Social Security tax torpedo. You didn't double your spending, you didn't take extra income, you just crossed the line you didn't know existed. Now let's another trap to this, Medicare Irma. Medicare premiums are based on your income from 2 years ago. So the withdrawal you took this year doesn't affect your premiums right away. It shows up later when you're no longer connecting the dots. If that same income spike pushes you over an Irma threshold, your Medicare premiums go up automatically. For a married couple, that can mean over $2,000 per year in additional premiums, and it can be triggered by being $1 over the line. And that is the Irma cliff that you should be aware of. There is a third tax trap that doesn't affect everyone, but when it does, it adds another 3.8% tax on top of everything else. It's called the net investment income tax, or NIT. This tax turns on once your income crosses $200,000 if you're single, and $250,000 if you're married filing jointly. Before those levels, this income doesn't apply at all. Now, here's the part that confuses people. Investment income like dividends, interest, and capital gains can be subject to this tax, but 401k withdrawals themselves are not. So people assume that doesn't affect them. But the withdrawal still raises your total income, and that can pull your investment income into the tax. Here is a simple example. You're a married couple with $30,000 of investment income, total income of $240,000. You're below the threshold to the net investment tax. Now you take a $20,000 IRA withdrawal. Your income rises $260,000, crossing the threshold by $10,000. That triggers the 3.8% tax on $10,000 of your investment income, about $380 in additional tax. Not a huge sum on its own, the other taxes and could repeat year after year. Once again, the issue isn't the withdrawal, it's where it falls in the sequence. Most people are told to delay touching their 401k for as long as possible and to take Social Security early because it feels like guaranteed income. That advice treats each income source as if it operates on its own, ignoring how the tax rules interact once multiple sources are turned on. A better way to think about this is that sequencing matters more than account size, and that maintaining control early is often more valuable than locking in guarantees too soon. For many people with multiple income sources, that means reversing the order that income is actually taken. Instead of locking in Social Security early and letting the 401k grow untouched, the early retirement years are often best used to draw from flexible sources first. That usually means using your 401k strategically while your tax brackets are lower, supplementing income from a brokerage account where much of the withdrawal may be tax-free return of the principal, and using those same years to convert portions of your 401k into a Roth lower tax rate. By doing this before Social Security and required distributions begin, you're reducing future forced income, building a pool of tax-free money for later years, and avoiding income overlap that triggers tax traps. Then, when guaranteed income turns on later, it fills in a plan that's already been optimized, rather than colliding with it. Let me give you a simple example of what this looks like when it's done well. Let's look at John, who retires at 62. John needs about $75,000 a year to support his lifestyle. He has a 401k, a brokerage account, Social Security, and a small pension that starts later. At 62, John does not turn his Social Security yet. Instead, he funds his spending using a mix of withdrawals from his brokerage account, where much of the money is return of principal and lightly taxed, strategic withdrawals from his 401k, keeping himself in a lower tax bracket. During these early years, John also converts a portion of his 401k into a Roth IRA each year, filling up with lower 12 and 22% tax brackets, while his taxable income is still relatively low. This gives him spending money and builds future tax-free income without triggering Social Security taxes or Medicare surcharges. At 65, John's pension begins. Instead of viewing it as an extra money to spend, John uses it to replace some of the income he was taking from his 401k. His spending stays the same, but his taxable income stays controlled because because he planned for this transition. He continues modest Roth conversions and avoids stacking income on top of Social Security, which still hasn't started. At 70, John finally turns on Social Security. Because he waited, his benefit is significantly higher and inflation adjusted for life. Now he's guaranteed income from Social Security and his pension covers most of his spending. To fill any remaining gap, John uses his Roth withdrawals, which don't show up on his tax return and don't trigger any of the tax traps we talked about earlier. The result, John didn't spend less. He didn't take any more risk. He just used his income sources in a different order. By sequencing income instead of stacking it, he paid less tax over his lifetime, avoided unnecessary Medicare penalties, and created a more durable income plan for the rest of his life. That's the difference between having the same accounts and using them strategically. I share all of this with one big warning. All of this can make sense on paper, but it only works if it supports the life you actually want to live. You can't lead with taxes if the strategy doesn't first meet your spending needs, lifestyle goals, and peace of mind. The right sequence has to fund your life comfortably first and then optimize taxes around it. And even when you start with the right strategy, retirement doesn't stand still. Tax laws change, markets move, health events happen, spouses pass away, or income needs shift. That's why income sequences isn't just one-time decision, it's dynamic. Smart retirees treat this as an ongoing planning process, not a set it and forget it plan. Reviewing this strategy every year, and sometimes more often, helps prevent small changes from turning into expensive mistakes. Now that you know how retirees can unintentionally trigger higher taxes just by taking income in the wrong order, the next step is simply understanding how this applies to your situation. We start by reviewing the sequence you're using today, identifying any hidden tax exposures, and clarifying whether small changes could help you keep more of what you've already earned. Click on the link in the description to schedule a conversation with my team. I'll see you in the next video.